Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about addiction. More specifically, we're going to be talking about how we can support our loved ones who are struggling with addiction and what we can do if we're faced with denial or resistance. We're also going to talk about what's within our control and means of support and what's outside of our means of support, as well as some strategies on how to support our loved ones during their journey. So this is not a video about strategies on how to force our loved ones into treatment, okay? That's not what this video is about. Studies suggest that individuals who voluntarily seek recovery tend to benefit as opposed to individuals who are mandated or bribed into treatment. Please take note that the information discussed on my channel may be triggering. If this is the case for you, please use your strategies, use your supports as a means to reestablish your sense of balance. And if you are in crisis, I have provided a link down below in the description box, so if you need to, please click on it for some added support. Also, this video and my channel in general is not intended to replace clinical services like counseling. The aim is really to discuss some tips and tricks and strategies to maintain mental balance, education, as well as spreading awareness. So now that we have some housekeeping business out of the way, let's jump into our chat about addiction. It is vital to distinguish between what is in our control and what's not within our control. A lot of the times we believe that we have control over our loved one's substance use or problematic behavior such as gambling. But the reality of the situation is we don't have control. We can't be with our loved ones 24/7 and micromanaging them. That is way too stressful for us, and that's not going to be beneficial for our loved ones. So what is in our control? What can we do to help support our loved ones who are struggling? One strategy we can use is open communication. In my last video, we discussed addictive behaviors. One of those is isolation. So with open communication, we're combating that isolation because we're giving our loved ones a platform to feel comfortable to express themselves. So using I feel statements such as, I feel concerned or worried when you're out with your friends. I feel very angry when I don't know where you are and I'm up all night thinking about it. Open communication strategies are going to be important because this will allow for insight building. Especially in denial, individuals might not necessarily be aware of the negative consequences that are associated with their addiction. So insight building is going to be key. It is also going to be very important to talk to our loved ones about the ways in which we can stay safe. So even though we don't have control over our loved ones' usage or their problematic behavior such as gambling, what we can do is highlight the ways in which they can stay safe and encourage them to use these safety strategies. So for instance, recognizing negative consequences associated with their substance use or problematic behavior. They might be completely oblivious to it, so highlighting that can also be beneficial using I feel statements. Highlighting the dangers of using and driving, or just in general, using and operating heavy machinery, going to work under the influence, managing staff under the influence. These are huge safety concerns. Even caring for young children under the influence, which is a child protection concern. It is also going to be important to recognize overdose symptoms. If you'd like, I can go into more detail about what these symptoms may look like and what we can do to help our loved ones if they are experiencing an overdose. So leave a comment down below letting me know if that's something that you're interested in. A third strategy, and one that's going to be most important, are boundaries. So it's very easy for us to get sucked into that tornado of addiction, especially when we have these blurred lines When we have these blurred boundaries and we don't really know what's acceptable behavior, what's not acceptable behavior, what we can do to support, what we can't do to support, then we're walking the realm of codependency, which, if we're sucked into that tornado of addiction as well, and we feel imbalanced in trying to support our loved one, it's going to be very difficult for our loved one to get the support that they need, as well as for us to feel like we're in a state of balance and to have the ability to support our loved one. So whatever your boundary is, whether it's please don't have any alcohol in the house, please don't come home after 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever your boundary is, it's about enforcing it and reinforcing it. And if our loved one is pushing those boundaries or breaking those boundaries, there's appropriate consequences affiliated with those boundaries. So then this way we can modify behavior as best as we can and support our loved one as a means of trying to avoid enabling behaviors. So boundaries are going to be very important in that regard to help separate our ability to support and us getting sucked into that tornado. Lastly, it's going to be important to engage in self-care. We can lose focus on ourselves, especially when we're trying to be a support to our loved ones. We want to support, we want to protect, we want to do everything that we can in our power to help our loved ones find recovery. But sometimes it might be at the expense of our imbalance. So recognize if you're feeling imbalanced. If you're anxious, use your relaxation techniques. If you're feeling angry, use healthy anger release strategies. So this way we're not building up tension, we're reducing that tension so we can feel balanced and we're better able to support our loved ones. Now that we can recognize what is in our power as a means of support versus what's not in our power, now we can move forward in distinguishing between how we can help individuals who are in denial versus individuals who are resistant to support. When individuals are in denial, they tend to lack insight into their addiction, such as negative consequences affiliated with their addiction. So this is where open communication is going to be so important, because we're going to be planting those insight seeds, right? We want to have these open communication opportunities so this way we can plant that seed, nurture that seed, allow it to grow so we can have our loved ones build that insight. It's not going to happen all at once. Even though we want it so bad after one conversation that our loved ones choose recovery, but it's a step-by-step process, a little by little, and we will get there. So having open discussions, planting those seeds, insight building can allow the defenses to weaken a little bit, so then this way our loved one can feel comfortable expressing themselves. Now, a little bit of history. Denial is actually a defense mechanism, if you didn't already know. And it was coined by Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud outlined that our psyche is divided into three: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is more like our primitive, animalistic, desire portion of our personality. Our ego mediates between the id and the superego, but it's more so our moral compass. And the superego really houses our values and beliefs that we adopt from society. So this can be from parents, a caregiver, teachers, and other influencers. So what ends up happening is when the ego is stressed and overwhelmed, then our unconscious develops a defense mechanism essentially to protect our ego. Because our ego is unable to work through or process those traumatic or stressful events, so our unconscious tends to hide it from us. And that's where we can get defense mechanisms such as denial, repression, and projection. So having continuous open conversations that are free from judgment and that we're able to create a safe space to allow our loved ones to feel comfortable will help break down that denial and that's what we can do within our power. On the other hand, there are individuals who are aware of their problematic behaviors, but are resistant to support for whatever reason. Open communication strategies can be beneficial, but more than that, there are underlying factors that are contributing to the problematic behavior that is going to take more than just open communication strategies. There's more technique, more skills, more therapeutic tools that are needed as a means to help individuals who are resistant. What we can do is we can talk about change talk strategies. Now, change talk is a technique that is adopted from a bigger intervention known as motivational interviewing. So in this video here, we can talk about different elements of change talk and how we can incorporate it as a means to support our loved ones on their journey. One strategy we can use is the Socratic method, which is essentially just asking questions. This can help with the level of insight, but can also help our loved ones reflect. So for instance, we can ask why they feel that they need to use. What does it mean for them to use? And continually asking questions that maybe they haven't even thought about. And for them to answer can allow for them to reflect on what their addiction looks like and what it means to them and what recovery might look like. Another strategy is called looking back. So we can reflect and we can encourage our loved ones to reflect, the times in which they were drug-free or alcohol-free or weren't engaging in problematic behaviors such as gambling. And we can ask them what their life looked like, what their experience looked like, and what changed that impacted them and sparked this addiction. So this will give our loved ones the opportunity to reflect as well and to explore the different options of what maybe recovery might look like for them. Another strategy involves looking forward. So we can give our loved ones the opportunity to set goals. If they could do anything, be anything, then what would it be? What would their life look like? And then we can work backwards on how to achieve those goals. But it's very difficult for us to achieve those goals if we're in active addiction and if our loved one is in active addiction. So it's encouraging them to work towards their goals little by little, allowing them to see that recovery isn't something that's scary. It's about us regaining a sense of self and walking our genuine path of who we are and what we're supposed to do without being held back mentally, physically, and maybe even socially. So overall, we talked about today what's within our control, what's not within our control as a means to support our loved ones who are struggling with addiction, what we can do if we're faced with denial and our loved ones are in denial about their substance use or problematic behaviors, as well as resistance, and what change talk strategies we can use to really help roll with that resistance and hopefully shed some light in what recovery can look like and what our loved ones can gain with recovery. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Click that little bell right beside the subscribe button so this way you are notified when I upload new videos. And you can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll link those down below in the description box. I want to thank you for joining me today and sitting here and listening to me chat. Have yourself a wonderful self-care day. Bye for now.